There is one simple thing you should never hang up the phone without doing, and almost nobody does it. It takes about 10 seconds, but to your aging father, it can mean more than anything else you do for him all week. Today, I'll tell you exactly what it is and why, according to psychology, it matters so much more than you think. If you have an aging parent, subscribe. This channel is about understanding the people who raised us. Let's start with how the call usually ends. You're on the phone with your father. It's been a perfectly nice conversation. A little about the weather, a little about the kids, the same handful of topics the two of you always seem to circle through. And then your real life starts pulling at you. Someone needs something, or you glance at the clock, or you simply feel the call beginning to wind down on its own. So you wrap it up the way we all do, on autopilot. Okay, Dad, I've got to run. Talk to you soon. Click. And it's done. You don't think a single thing of it. Why would you? You'll call again next week. It was a perfectly fine call. But here is what you didn't see, because you weren't there to see it. On the other end of that line, in a very quiet house, your father is still holding the phone for a moment after it has already gone dead. Not unkind, not wrong. Nobody could fault you for it. Just rushed. A door swinging closed a little too quickly.
And that rushed ending, as small and as harmless as it seems, is the exact thing I want to help you fix today. Because it turns out that the way a phone call ends matters enormously more than almost anyone realizes. So let's talk about why. And this is where the science comes in. There is a well-established principle in psychology known as the peak end rule. In simple terms, it means this. When we look back on an experience, we do not remember every minute of it equally or fairly. Instead, our minds cling to two moments above all the others, the emotional high point and the very end. The way something finishes has a powerful, lasting, and frankly disproportionate grip on how we remember the entire experience. Think about the last scene of a great film, the one that stays with you long after you've forgotten the middle. Think about a goodbye at an airport. It's the final hug at the gate you replay, not the drive there. The ending is what the mind decides to keep. Now hold that idea up against your father and the telephone. For you, that phone call was one of maybe a dozen things you did today, and it is already quietly fading from your memory. But for your father, that very same call may well have been the single best part of his whole day, quite possibly the best part of his whole week. He may have been looking forward to it for days.
And the peak end rule means that the feeling he is left holding for hours and hours after you hang up is shaped most of all by how the call ended. If it ended warm, he carries warmth around with him all afternoon. But if it ended rushed, gotta run, bye, then the feeling he is quietly left sitting with, alone in that silent house, is the small, deflating sense that he was something you needed to get through, an item to be checked off a list, something squeezed into the cracks of a busy life. And here's what makes all of this matter even more. If you have spent any time on this channel, you already understand just how much that single phone call means to him. It is the event he waits for. It is the bright spot dropped into a long, quiet, repetitive stretch of days. Picture it from his side for a moment. He may have been thinking about calling you since breakfast, quietly rehearsing a little story he wanted to tell you, waiting until what he guessed was a good time so that he wouldn't be a bother. And when the phone finally connects and he hears your voice come through, something in him genuinely lifts. For those few minutes, the house is not so silent, and he is not so alone. That is what is actually happening on the other end of that line, and it is exactly why the way you choose to close the call carries so much more weight than its small size would ever lead you to believe. So the stakes of those final 10 seconds are not small at all.
You are not merely ending a phone call. You are setting the emotional weather for the entire rest of his day. And most of us, without ever once meaning to, end it on a sudden draft of cold air. And before I tell you exactly what to do about it, if this is making you quietly think back on your own last few phone calls, then you are precisely the person this video is for. Stay with me, because the fix itself is genuinely simple, and it changes everything. So here is the one thing you should never hang up the phone without doing. Never end a call with your aging father on logistics. Instead,
always, without exception, end the call by making absolutely sure the final thing he hears is that he matters to you. That is it. That is the entire secret. But because it is so deceptively easy to get wrong, let me break it down into 3 small parts so that you know exactly how to do it on your very next call. The first part is simply this: slow down the ending. Most of us begin mentally hanging up long before the call is actually over. We're already half gone, already reaching for the next task, already somewhere else. Don't. The moment you feel the call starting to wrap up, stop. Take a single breath and give it 10 more seconds of your complete, undivided attention. Just 10 seconds. That small, deliberate pause is the room inside which everything else happens. You simply cannot end a call warmly if you are already halfway out the door while you're doing it. So before anything else, slow down. Give the ending the few seconds it deserves. The second part is to say one specific, genuine thing. And I want to be careful here because there's a trap. The autopilot love you bye that so many of us tack on to the end of every call, that is better than nothing, truly. But it has been worn so smooth from overuse that your father can barely feel it anymore. It has become furniture. What I'm talking about instead is one real, specific sentence, something that could only have come from this particular conversation on this particular day. Specific is the whole game. Specific tells him that you were truly there, that you were actually listening, that he was not just pleasant background noise in the middle of your busy day. A specific sentence lands in a way that a generic one simply never ever can. And it does not need to be poetic or polished or clever. It does not need to be a speech. One honest, ordinary, particular sentence is worth more than the most beautiful words said on autopilot. Just say the small, true thing that this particular conversation actually left you with and let him hear it out loud. He will know the difference. He will feel that for one moment he was truly seen. And being truly seen is a feeling that an aging parent does not get nearly enough of anymore. And the third part is the hardest of the 3, and also the most important. End on warmth, not on exit. Whatever words you choose to say, make sure the very last thing out of your mouth is the warm thing. Not the logistics, not the, okay, I really do have to go now, not the scheduling of the next call. Say the warm thing last, and then gently hang up. If you are able to say I love you, then say it, and let those words be the final note that hangs in the air. And if those exact words are difficult in your family, and let's be honest, for so many of us, especially with our fathers, they are genuinely difficult, then simply find the version that you can say. Take care of yourself, Dad. The precise words matter far, far less than the order they come in. End on the warmth. Whatever else you do, let warmth be the last thing he hears before the line goes quiet and he is alone in that house again. Now, I know that for some of you, this is going to feel complicated, and I don't want to pretend otherwise. Not every relationship with a father is warm and easy. Some of you have decades of distance between you and your dad. Some of you have a father who was hard or absent, or who never once said a tender word in his life. And the idea of ending a call with I love you feels not just awkward, but almost dishonest. So let me say this clearly. You do not need some grand, dramatic movie-style transformation for any of this to work. You do not have to suddenly become a different family overnight. Start impossibly small if you have to. Good to talk to you is a warm ending. Take care of yourself is a warm ending. Even just slowing down and not hanging up the second the business is finished is a warm ending. And here is the quiet, hopeful truth about doing this with a difficult or distant father. Warmth, repeated patiently over time, has a way of slowly thawing things that everyone had long given up on. You may be astonished at what a few months of slightly warmer goodbyes can begin to melt. It is never, ever too late to change the way a conversation ends. Even if you have hung up 1,000 times on a flat, cool, businesslike note, the very next call you make is a completely fresh chance to leave him with something just a little warmer than before. He will probably not say a single word about it, but somewhere underneath, in a place he might not even have words for, he will feel that something between you has quietly shifted. And the way a conversation ends, repeated again and again,
can eventually change the entire relationship. Now, watch what this small change actually does to him. Because of the peak end rule we talked about, that warm ending becomes the part of the call your father holds on to and keeps. Not the weather, not the small talk, the warmth right there at the end. He will hang up the phone in his quiet house, and instead of that small, deflating draft of cold air, he will find himself holding something genuinely good, and he'll replay it. That one specific warm sentence will sit with him through the whole long afternoon, through dinner eaten alone, maybe right up until the moment he finally falls asleep. And it does not even stop there. A father who hangs up the phone feeling loved carries that feeling forward in 100 small ways you will never get to see. He stands a little taller down at the grocery store. He mentions to the neighbor with a flicker of quiet pride that his child called him today. He sleeps a little easier that night. The warmth you leave him with at the end of a single phone call does not stay sealed inside that one afternoon. It quietly spills out into the rest of his life, into how he feels about himself, and into how he carries all the long, empty days that sit in between your calls. You will have changed the entire emotional temperature of his day with 10 seconds of your time and a single honest sentence. But there is something else this does, something quieter and even more important than a single good afternoon. Over time, call after call, ending in warmth, you slowly begin to rewrite the deeper story your father tells himself about his own place in your life. Because the lonely fear that lives inside so many aging parents is the quiet, gnawing suspicion that they have somehow become a burden, an obligation, a duty, a chore that their busy children carry out of guilt rather than love. Every single warm ending chips a little piece off of that fear.
Every "I'm really glad we talked" tells him over and over again that he is not an obligation at all, that he is genuinely wanted, that the call was not a task you completed and crossed off, but a real connection that you actually valued. And you simply cannot give an aging parent a much greater gift than that. The steady, repeated, believed reassurance that they still matter, that they are still loved, that reaching out to you was never once a bother. And remarkably, all of it rides on the final 10 seconds of an ordinary phone call. And now the part I truly need you to sit with, because it is the deepest reason of all to start doing this today, on your very next call. There will come a day, and neither of you will have any way of knowing when one of your phone calls with your father will be the last one. It will not announce itself. It will not feel special or significant in any way. It will feel exactly like all the hundreds of calls that came before it. An ordinary call, on an ordinary afternoon, about the weather and the kids and nothing much at all. And then you will say your goodbyes, and you will hang up, and you will simply go on with the rest of your day, having absolutely no idea that it was the very last time you would ever hear his voice on the other end of that line. This is the truth that makes those final 10 seconds matter more than nearly anything else you do.
Because one of those goodbyes is going to be the one that you replay in your own mind for the rest of your entire life. One of them is going to be the last thing he ever heard you say to him, and the last thing you ever heard him say to you. And you do not get to choose which call it turns out to be. Which means you have only one real option. You have to treat every single one of them the same. You have to make every ending one that you could genuinely live with being the last. Imagine, just for a moment, the two versions of it. In the second it was, "I love you, Dad." Both of them take exactly the same 10 seconds. Both of them are completely within your power, on every single call, starting with the very next one you make. But one of them you would carry as a quiet, permanent ache for the rest of your days, and the other you would carry as something close to peace. The way you hang up the phone is not a small thing at all. It may one day turn out to be the single most important thing you ever said to him, and you will not know that it was until long, long after the line has gone quiet for the very last time. So this is what I am asking you to do, and it truly could not be any simpler. The next time you find yourself on the phone with your father, which I genuinely hope is today, do not hang up the way you always have. Take the 10 extra seconds. Slow the ending down. Say one real specific thing.
and let the very last words he hears be warm ones.
That's the entire practice. Do it on the next call and then again on the one after that, and keep doing it until ending warmly becomes the most natural thing in the world to you, until your father slowly starts to notice, without ever quite understanding why, that hanging up the phone with you leaves him feeling just a little more loved than it used to. And honestly, don't even wait for him to call you first. Be the one who picks up the phone. Today. Dial his number, have an ordinary little conversation about nothing much at all, and then, right before you hang up, do this. Give him an ending that he can hold on to. If this helped you, take a moment to subscribe and share it with someone who still has a parent they can call, and then go and make the call, because your father is very likely sitting in a quiet house at this very moment, half hoping the phone will ring. So make it ring, and when it comes time to hang up, be sure to leave him with warmth.